Okay, cool. All right, so this is about life and death. Um, so the motivation behind this talk is that Go is a game that um, it's sort of known for spewing out little sub games, and it has a lot of emergent properties. And one of those emergent properties is the endgame, which was one of the things that inspired combinatorial game theory as a topic in math. But it also has a lot of other interesting sub games inside of it, which is like this mechanic of a group being either alive or dead. And aside from that, there are other interesting topics within Go as well. Go sort of has a very, I would call it a multi-resolutional stack of different subsystems. Like at the very end of the game, you're interested in getting these little tiny 1 point advantages over your opponent, but at the beginning, you're just trying to build territory. And the strategies for those two things look very different in a way that I think in Go, there it can be broken down into a lot of very distinct sub problems. I hope that makes sense. But we're going to be talking about just one of them today, which is the actual sort of brute tactical mechanics of making things live or making things die. And that's what this talk is kind of about. And so, for those who don't know, Go is this game that is played on usually a 19 by 19 grid that looks like this. It has black and white stones. I will go over the rules momentarily. Actually, I'll just go over them right now. Um, One sec. Let me just. You can see the Go board, right? On the screen. I'm going to make a blank
Yes.
thing here. Okay, so the rules of Go, it is extremely simple. Um, and you'll see why that's a complete lie in a few minutes. But on paper, it's very simple. So the rules are like this. If we have a stone that is about to be surrounded, like so, it gets captured. Now, what we mean by that more explicitly is each stone, and as we'll see in a moment, groups of stones, has what's called liberties. So this stone has a single liberty, an orthogonal adjacency, where there's nothing there. It's just an empty spot. So as soon as a stone or a group of stones has no adjacencies left, it gets captured. Um, now, what is a group of stones? A group of stones is just orthogonally connected stones, like this. So when they're like this, the stones work together. So these two white stones are now a group, and they have to be captured as a group as well. So because they're together, when we surround the whole group, and by surround I explicitly mean remove the liberties of the whole group, then it gets captured. So just to sort of give another example, if we do this, the stones don't get captured because not all of their liberties are covered, right? Only when black plays here does the group get captured. Does that make sense? Just as a very
Wait,
brief introduction to the base mechanic. Yeah,
in that last situation, what would happen if white placed like in that third empty space? Would that be like a
that's a
self?
great question. Yes, this is suicide, and in most rule sets, that is not allowed. So,
Oh, because that's not
yeah,
even like a valid move.
it's an illegal move. Yeah, you would
Okay.
almost never want to do that anyway. So,
Why is it illegal?
uh, well, we will talk about uh different rule sets and some of their consequences later. We won't ever talk about anything specifically related to this, but you would
Okay.
never want to commit suicide in almost all scenarios. Um, but yeah, you can certainly play the game of like making it legal and seeing what happens. And I personally don't know what the results of that are, and I think there are some situations, like very bizarre ones, where you would want to be able to make this move. Um, and that is what this today's talk is about: is bizarre situations involving life and death status. But uh, we won't talk about this one in particular. But just
Okay.
take just accept for now that
Sure.
it is against the rules to commit suicide.
Okay.
Um, Anyway, uh, so that's the base mechanic of the game. Now you can also do this same thing on the edge. So, like, you can think of Liberty sort of as like lines coming out of the spots. So, like, um, since there's no line going out of the board, this stone doesn't have any liberties left, so it gets captured by white, right? And similarly on the corner, have two.
Minor question.
Yes,
If there are multiple clusters of stones that aren't connected to each other, but they all like have the same liberty, are they considered a group or are they considered multiple groups?
like this, these two stones share a liberty. Is that
Yes. Yes.
so?
If
So,
like they were all surrounded.
yeah, the word group is used somewhat flexibly in normal talk. Like when people are normally talking, when they say a group, they usually just mean a set of stones that is working together. Um, however, so like under the technical definition of the rules as we might state them, like this stone can be captured independently of this stone being captured, and in that sense, they are not a group technically. But often
Right.
people use the word group just to mean stones that kind of act together. Like if I have these three stones, like these are three groups by the most formal and technical of definitions, but at the same time, like black can easily connect them whenever black wants to do so by doing something like this. So in a lot of cases, it's very sensible to think of technically disconnected stones as a group of stones working together.
Okay.
Um, okay, so now that is the mechanic that involves killing things. So let me just get over two very basic edge cases before we start to talk about weird stuff. So let's see. So if I set up a situation like this, actually I'll go back one. Now if white goes in the center here, what would happen? It's white's turn. White goes in the center. That's suicide, right? White can't do that because like it's already surrounded, and as we said before, suicide's illegal. So but what happens if white has a stone here? Now black can't do this because that's suicide. But what if white does? Because like if white goes here, it's suicidal for white, but it also kills the black stones. So the rule of the game is that as a player making a capture, it's legal to commit the move that would otherwise be suicidal, but is not after the capture of the stones that it touches. So in other words, um, the capture of your opponent's stones is computed first in some sense to the capture of the stone that you're placing when making your move. Does that make sense? By the way, I'm also um not reading the chat because I only have one screen. So
Alex, if I had to like summarize how that is, how that rule kind of evaluates the way that you were explaining it and how I would like write this up in software is like
yep.
you, when you're evaluating a position, would mark which of your own pieces are going to be captured, but you still leave them on the board for the purposes of capturing the opponent pieces. And then at the end, you take all captured pieces off the board.
I think what maybe I'm parsed that wrong, but wouldn't that end with the capturing stone also being taken off the board at the end?
Is that not how it's supposed to go?
This stone, yeah, the stone that I place in the middle here does not get removed after the fact.
Oh, okay then. Yeah, no, I had that wrong. Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, so when I place this stone, it captures the stones around it and does not get captured. Cool. Does that make sense? Any questions about this scenario? Okay, so that leaves one more weird case to be talked about. Or at least one more basic weird case. So Is white allowed to play here? I'll put that as an open question. Is that legal?
I feel like by the same rule as the last case, yes, because like the Blackstone gets captured first before the suicide
Yeah,
happens.
exactly. Right, that's exactly right. So then by the same logic, black should be able to play here, right? Except I'm clicking and it's not taking. So what gives? Why can't black do that? Well, if you can imagine this actually happening, if I force the editor to like actually do this, we just end up back in the same position that we were in like a move before, like here, right? Um, so you would get into an infinite loop. Infinite loops are not fun. You want your game to end at some point. So if we just fight indefinitely over this forever, then we're both gonna grow old and die, and the game doesn't end. So this is called the co-rule. Uh, and it basically says that if you're in one of these infinite loops, you can't continue making the infinite loop. Now, formally treated, this rule has a lot of sort of variations to it. Now, uh, so one thing that I haven't mentioned so far is that there are different rule sets of Go. I think this was slightly discussed in the chat, but Go is a very old game from probably around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, um, and it spread over a lot of cultures of East Asia and sort of developed in isolation to a degree in each of them, and they all developed their own traditions of how to score the game, how the specific rules are applied, and at least as it pertains to this talk, we need to know that there are some differing ways of interpreting this specific rule. So what I sort of hinted at there was that you just can't go back and immediately, oops, that's the wrong screen. You can't immediately go back and capture like the same piece over and over again, right? But you can imagine, like, what if there's some bigger cycle going on? What if there's some more complicated position where we would end up back in the same loop, but it doesn't just look like this immediate shape with two like rhombuses like this. Um, like, what about that? So there are also rules that say, like, you can't make the same board position twice. That's the case in certain rule sets. In other rule sets, you can't repeat the same board situation, which is defined as position of the physical stones on the board, but also taking into consideration whose turn it is. And there's a bunch of different variations of this, and I'm not going to go over which rule sets have which co-rule, but there's a plethora of choices that you can make, and you should keep that in mind throughout the course of this talk. So, like, again, we're going to be talking about weird life and death statuses that rarely come up and that are extremely bizarre. So, a lot of the things that we talk about here will be like not things in some rule sets, will be interesting things in other rule sets. And we're not going to talk about which is which and what's what, but just keep in mind that there are choices here. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Now, one more thing before I go into all of the weird stuff. This has been treated formally in a book that I disclaim I have not read. It's been brought up in some of the combinatorial game theory talks. But if you want to know more about this, this pertains more so to the Yosei, which is the end game. But my understanding is that it also discusses a lot of these strange like life and death scenarios as well. And actually, I think a number of the names of certain positions that I talk about here were actually created. The names were coined in this book. I hear chat noises. Okay, so all right, so life and death. So how do we actually know if a group is alive? And what does it mean to be alive? I've sort of like presented everything so far as being just this race to capture, right? We're trying to surround things as soon as possible, and whoever gets captured first dies, right? That's not entirely the case. So we can imagine a situation where like black is like this. Actually, before we do that, let's say black is like this. Sort of like the position that we saw earlier, right? We have black and white has the ability to now play on T1, right? To capture those black stones. Now, this spot is called an eye. It's like an internal adjacency, right? So this internal adjacency is a place that white can play to capture the stones, but it would have to be the last place that white plays. However, we can now consider a situation in which black has two eyes, like this, and white surrounding it. So now white can't play on T3 because that's suicide, and it doesn't capture the black stones. And white also can't play on T1 because that's also suicide and doesn't capture the black stones. So white can't really do anything here. There's nothing to be done. The black stones will live forever unless black goes and stupidly plays inside of it, at which point white can go capture. Right? But black would never actually do that in reality. Does that make sense? So we call this group alive. We say that the group is alive. Does everyone understand why? Does that make sense? Lynn says yes. So two eyes make life.
Is the point that it can't die unless black like kills it off, essentially?
Yeah, but black would never do that. So like in reality, this
Right.
this group is just going to like in real play in the real world, this is just going to live forever. And a lot of the game comes down to making groups that do that, making groups that are safe and live forever. At the end of the board, all of your groups are going to be alive or dead or in one of the weird situations that we're going to talk about later.
Because
So
can I just say, there wasn't, I don't think it was said explicitly, like the aim of the game is territory, and so if you have
this is true.
alive
Yeah.
groups on the board, they count towards your territory, and so you're never
Yeah.
gonna reduce your territory willingly, because you lose points. So that's why you're not gonna kill your own groups.
Yeah, so like Go is the actual aim of the game is to enclose amounts of territory. Like for example, this would be 8 points of territory for white. Actually, well, I'll say this would be 9 points of territory for white, just to call out specifically that we have two eyes in this case.
The black
and
has
to be clear,
3.
Yeah, black down here has 3 eyes. Yeah. So and 3 eyes is also living for basically the same reasons that 2 eyes is living, right? We still just can't play in any of them, so there's no way to surround all of the liberties of this group. Right. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
About the white stones in the upper right. Even though there's like a really big liberty, there still is a way for
so,
to take those, right?
Yes. So that's true. So, and I'm glad you bring it up.
Oh.
So like if we have black surrounding this thing, and black goes and does like this, then black can capture here. Oops, sorry, I'm in like edit mode. Black can capture by doing this. Right. So yes, this big thing is an eye question mark. Like it's obvious when like we do it like this, where each eye is only one spot, but like eyes can be larger. In this situation, white has 2 eyes here. Like this is one eye, this is one eye. But like in this case, black can't do the same trick that black did a moment ago, right? Black can't play black now can't play here. This corner is still suicidal. So black can't play in either of these spots. So this is totally alive under all possible definitions. So yeah, you do want to be concerned with the size of your eyes and make sure that nothing weird can happen inside of them. An even crazier way of thinking about this is that you can imagine this white group as actually having 2 eyes right now. Like this could be you could define this in your head as being an internal liberty, and define this thing as also being just inside on the bigger side of the white stones, right? Like there's topologically it's splitting the space of its liberties into two, right? But black can, there's just so much room for weird stuff to happen on the outside of this thing that this is not really in practice alive. And there is a sort of gradient of confusion between like gigantic like swaths of territory on the outside of the group and these little tiny well-defined ones on the inside. And there is a haze of confusion between those. And like actually in practice, the this shape that I drew here is very much in the realm of confusion, and we'll talk about it specifically at the end of this talk. But let me see. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so in this particular setup that I made here, now if black does try and come around and do this and is like in practice actually trying to kill this thing, like black has to make 5 moves here, right? And like black's not actually going to be able to do that in practice without white like putting an end to it. Probably. Um I don't think there's any way that black can get away with this. Although it's not like immediately obvious, to be clear, either. Yeah, this white starts a ko. I think this ends in white to live. I think this is white to live. But this should demonstrate kind of how this gets weird. You'll see how they're like, we'll get to weird situations like this in a moment. But anyway, yeah, this is what I mean by this big thing is in sort of the haze of confusion. Okay, so is everyone still with me? We're trying to figure out if a group is alive or not. That's sort of the point here. And we said it's alive if it has 2 eyes. But as I've hopefully made clear right now, is that what is and what is not an eye is not exactly obvious. It's not. There's no well-defined definition of an eye. I'm going to go down to a smaller board size here. Actually, let's do 5 by 5. Now let's do 9 by 9. Now, okay, so if I like just to demonstrate briefly like how it's hard to identify what is an eye, consider this black quote-unquote group, and we can imagine there's a white group on the inside of it like this. Like these 4 things look like they're all eyes, right? White can't play in any single one of them, because it's all suicidal, and it doesn't capture any one of these black bar groups, right? However, if suddenly we just remove 1 black stone and put a white stone there, like the whole thing collapses. It doesn't have 2 eyes. It's not like these 2 eyes remain or any pair of 2 eyes remain, because white can now go and capture the whole thing. Now black might recapture this, for example, but like this would now become a co-fight, which I haven't really quite defined yet. But like, actually, shoot, maybe I should define a co-fight. Shucks. Okay, I didn't define a co-fight. Let me define a co-fight. So we talked about this, where white and black are like this, right? And black has one here, and then we have this sort of back and forth, right? Now you can imagine in this board, there's things that both players want to do, as is always the case, right? Black plays somewhere. White's going to capture this, and black wants to capture back, right? Black wants to capture back to win this ko. So what's going to happen in practice? Remember, as we said, the rules are usually something like black can't immediately play back, or black can't recreate the same state of the board, or black can't recreate the same state of the board union the whose turn it is, something like that. So what black will do is now threaten something else on the board. Now I haven't told you what this is yet, but you can imagine black makes a threat here, and white has to respond to that threat somehow, and then black's going to recapture the ko, because now the board has changed. Now things are different. So black is allowed to come back to this, but only when things have happened. So this is called a ko fight. Now, white wants to recapture, so white's going to make a threat somewhere. I don't know where on this board, but you can imagine white makes a threat somewhere, black responds to that threat, and then white captures. Right? So this is a co-fight. That's what that's called. Now this turns into co, because white and black could go back and forth on this, like on this spot forever. Oops. And black wants to come back here, but black has to make a threat somewhere else. But really there's nothing, you'll have to take my word that there's nothing valuable to be done inside of this, such that white's going to be able to get the next move, and this sort of just collapses. This whole group just kind of falls apart. So my point here was that what an eye is not obvious. There's no local definition of an eye. An eye can't be locally defined. You have to be aware of the global scenario of the entire group. Does that make sense? This is getting complicated, so please chime in if that doesn't make sense, or if I did something quick there that you want to see played out a different way or something. Like, because we're already in the realm of somewhat confusion. Elliot says R19, Q19, Q18. R19, Q19. Wait, starting from here? Who's playing? I guess it's
I
white
think
R19.
white to play.
I don't think white plays R19. I think white plays Q19.
If white plays R19.
Oh, if white plays R19, if white plays R19, then wait. Yes, I think you're right. Yes, I think that's true. You think R19 works too? Probably. I think as well. I think either way white ends up winning. But yeah. Anyway, does this make sense? What I'm talking about here jive with everybody? An eye is hard to define. What's alive is therefore also hard to define. Like in the simple scenarios where you make two little holes, you're alive. But like, what about every other situation? Does the problem at least stand clear to people of what we're going to be talking about? I guess that's a yes. Okay. So that brings us on to our next rather basic-ish situations, which are not life and death. We talked about co. Let me talk about how co can define the life status of a group. So you can see this shape up here. Ignore all the other shapes. I've just put a couple of different situations on the same board. This up here is a co-fight, right? Because black wants to capture this. Because if black gets to make two moves here, black can make this shape that has two eyes. To happen, because if white can win this co-fight, if white can be the one to make two consecutive moves, if white can make an extra move here, then white gets to fill this in, and white will get to kill this whole group, because this is not an eye anymore. White can like capture inside of it, playing here, and now this is like a co-fight, but black's gonna lose because black doesn't have two eyes, so white can just wait until the end of time, and like fill this in. So the point being, whether or not black can make two eyes is dependent on black winning this co-fight. So the status of life and death of this group in the top right is neither life nor death. It's co. It depends on whether black wins the co or not. Now, that is very confusing, probably. Please tell me that's confusing, because I'm going to probably disbelieve you if someone doesn't ask a question here. Impressed if so.
I'm only confused if I'm wrong on this, but basically it's alive contingent on black being allowed to defend it.
Right. Yeah, that's correct. So like black plays here. Now white's gonna threaten something else. Like white's gonna make a threat. Black's gonna respond to the threat. Then white's gonna capture. Then black's gonna make a threat. And then white's gonna respond to that threat. And then black's gonna capture. And eventually one of these two players is gonna run out of threats. So let's say white doesn't have any more threats to make here. White plays some random move. Then black gets to make the nice shape that has two eyes inside of it, right? So at this point, black is alive. Now, if that doesn't happen, or rather, if black is the one to run out of external threats first, then like black will go in this random spot. Then white gets to fill in, and at this point, like you're probably just taking my word on it, but this thing isn't an eye anymore. So like, black only has one eye, and black does not live. So black's life status is contingent on black's ability to win the co-fight, which is decided by who has more threats to make. I guess everybody's cool with that by the lack of questions.
Wait. Oh, wait, I have a question. When you talk about external threats, are those just other co-fights happening elsewhere that are like higher priority, or is it
not
like
other co-fights, just other anythings. Like there could be like
just anything?
yeah, just so like here's a let me build a little situation to demonstrate this. So like actually maybe we should just do a few just basic life and death problems just to illustrate the points here. I will come back to that and answer it in a moment, but just to give a little bit of inspiration before I do that, let's talk about this scenario. So imagine you're white. What do you want to do here in this corner?
Is it play A18 or like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so white wants to do this because now white has two eyes. Now, if you're black, what do you want to do here?
You also play A18?
Yeah, exactly. So if black plays A18, what's gonna happen? Does white live or does white die? You can imagine white tries to attack this stone, but black's just gonna. Oops, sorry, hold on. White tries to attack this stone. Now black's just gonna capture the whole group, right? If white doesn't try to attack the stone, if white just ignores it, then black's gonna go here, and then white's gonna. Well, white can ignore again, and the black once again just captures, or white can capture black now. But in any case, like as there's one eye, this whole situation will just reduce to white getting captured. Does that make sense? So whoever goes first decides the life or death of this group. So let's imagine yeah, co-fights aren't the only moves you have to respond to. That's true. Let's imagine white has one more space here. Now, what is the status of this group? I'm asking that in much more broad terms. I'm not saying what should you do, but tell me, instead of telling me what to do, what's the status of it? Is it alive? Is it dead? Does it depend on whose move it is?
Is it that like? Okay, I'm not quite sure, but if you were to play it like A19 or something, it would like reduce to the previous case or something.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Okay.
So if black plays at A19, like white can just oops. Black plays at A19. And white
Well,
can
if
just
white plays,
capture.
then it reduces, yeah.
Yeah. If white plays at A19, then it just reduces to the previous situation. However, I assert that white would not do that in practice.
Yeah, I
we
can
get away
believe
with-
that.
What would be something better for white to do in practice?
I assume playing in the middle is still good. I struggle to see far enough to see if black still gets anything out of playing in the middle of that.
Well, yeah, okay, great. So at this point, white has 2 eyes, right? If white plays a17, white has 2 eyes. So if white goes first, white lives. We at least know that much. What if black goes first here? What if it's black's turn and black plays in the middle? Well, white can take the other quote-unquote middle spot, and now white also has 2 eyes. So, like, black can't do anything here. These 2 moves are both illegal, and white lives unconditionally. So, okay, white goes first, white lives. Black goes first, white still lives. So, white's just alive here. This situation is totally alive. Now, however, now come back to this co-fight over here. Like, let's say, white captures this, and black needs a threat somewhere. Now black can play at a18, because that's a threat. White needs to respond here to keep this thing alive. So now black would come back and play the ko. So that's an example of what a threat is. This group is alive unconditionally, but white has to keep investing in it to keep it alive after each attack that black plays. That's what we mean by making a threat.
So in that situation, if black in essence gets 2s in a row, then black can like flip the script. But if white just prevents 2 black moves from happening in a row, then white can keep it.
Right. Yeah. If black gets 2 moves in a row, yeah. So you can imagine in the alternative universe where white doesn't defend this, and white says, "No, I want this corner dead. I want to end this co-fight," and fills this thing in. Now black can play here, and now this white group is dead because black got 2 moves in a row. So we can play that out and see what happens. If black goes here, white captures. Now it's the same situation as before, but it's black to move, so black goes in the middle, and there's 1 eye now. So this turns into just black kills it. So it's white's choice here, right? At this position here, whether white wants to protect this thing on the top left or keep the co-fight going. And if you're thinking simply, is assuming you don't like run out all the brute force calculations of how many co-fights are on the board, you would usually want to keep the thing that's guaranteed alive to stay alive as opposed to ending the co-fight, because like this still depends on the co-situation. So just sort of like off of first vibes, the you should favor the definitive life over the potential death, right? Because there's still a fight to be had, right? You don't want to give up something you definitely have for sure for something that you might get anyways. In the chat, I think. Yes, that is correct. It's not. I say that as that's the first intuition that you should have, but if you've read out the entirety of co-situations on the board and you know exactly how it would play out, if you know all like the total set of co-threats, maybe if this was worth more points than this thing, and you knew that you wouldn't actually get both, then it might actually be more valuable to fill in the co. But that depends on global awareness, and you would have to read it out. Okay, so that's ko as a life status. Any questions before I talk about Seki? Makes sense? I'm surprised. I'm surprised by the. I think you're all geniuses if you get this on your first like time hearing it, because we're already talking about like situations where you have to like do some reading here. All right, I'll continue. I guess most of you do know the rules of Go. That's what I might be gathering. Okay, so Seki is this is an example of Seki here. So I guess just tell me what happens if each player plays in the hole here, either spot. Anybody want to make a guess as to what's going to happen here? Preferably someone who didn't know what Seki was half an hour ago.
Sorry, what?
What happens if this? What happens here? Are these white stones alive or are they dead?
If you're gesturing somewhere, I can't see your gestures on the
Is my
screen.
mouse invisible?
Are you
can see the
pointing
Oh,
at
now I'm seeing it.
H18
I'm pointing at
or
H18.
that? You're asking about that group?
Whoever moves first loses.
Yes. Wait, just to be clear though, can you guys see my mouse?
Yeah.
I can see
Yeah,
where
and
you're
that's
pointing.
I
Yeah,
think
sorry,
like
I
30
might have
seconds
been a bit
ago it was
apocryphal
not
there.
moving, but now it moves.
Wait. Yes. So I forgot who it was who said whoever plays first loses, but that is correct. So you can imagine white plays first and black captures, right? And it works the same if white plays here, just captures. So if it's black's move to play first, black does that, then white captures. And if black does this, then white captures like that. So if anyone goes in here, they lose. So this is called Seki, which means mutual life. So both of these groups, this black group and this white group, despite not having two eyes, both of them live individually. Does that make sense?
How does that score at the end?
Depends on your rule set. In Japanese
Okay.
scoring, Seki provides no points to either player. You can imagine in
Okay.
an alternative universe where each of these groups has only one eye, and I think the scoring then gets depends on the rule set. I think if I'm not mistaken, in Japanese scoring, those eyes still don't count for points, whereas I think in American Go Association it does. Someone can correct me in the comments if that's not the case. I forget the exact rules, but it depends is the point.
So in play, nobody's gonna move there, and it's
Yeah,
gonna
nobody's ever
look
going to
like
do
that at the
this.
very end.
Yeah, nobody's ever going to
Okay.
do that. Now here, I guess if just to illustrate what I just mentioned there a second ago, let me see. Let me erase a couple of these stones and build an extra eye here. So now white has an eye. In this situation here, black would be dead because white now can make this move thanks to having an extra liberty. White gets to make this move and black can't just capture it. So in this world, white gets to kill black. However, now if we make black also have an extra eye over here, let me get rid of all this. Yeah, wait, what does that button do? Hold on. I guess I have to like erase this individually. That's annoying. I like this. Ignore all of this stuff over here. Now this is Seki, although one of the spots is playable. Now this is Seki. Black can't play here because black can't play here because white captures, and white can't play for the same reason, right? Because the black captures now. So this is still Seki, but it's Seki with one eye each. So that's what I mean when you can have, but by you can have a Seki where each group has an eye.
Now, if I'm playing
Yep.
white, may I want to surround the black, get rid of the Seki, or is that kind of a waste of time generally?
What do you mean by get rid of the Seki? Like we already
Like
have black surrounded like this, right?
surround the other black.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'm implicitly kind of assuming here that these groups are alive on the outside,
Oh,
like this. So now
okay.
this black group has two eyes. Yeah, I mean, in practice, if you as white can kill this black thing on this side, then you also have resolved the Seki implicitly because, like when you do that, you now have, hold on, you also have tons of adjacencies. You have tons of liberties with this group, such that now you can play in here and capture black. So that's a very valuable capture if you can make it kill this thing on the outside of the Seki, because it implicitly also kills this thing on the inside. Cool. Good question. Any other questions about Seki? These are the sort of so life, death, ko, and Seki are sort of like the 4 most common life statuses. These are the things that'll like often show up in your games, but it gets much weirder. Before we go on to the weird stuff, any questions? Yeah, as Elliot says, yes, this move could be valuable as a co threat. White's gonna take your group, or potentially not, but you know, this threatens the immediate capture of this white group. So if white now, like, you know, does their co thing that they wanted to do, then black can play on the inside of that and capture it. So that's a threat. So
It's
it
kind of
could,
risky.
it's a risky threat. Yeah.
Okay. But you would want to do that if you stand to gain something quite valuable.
Yeah, in the co. Exactly. Okay. So a lot of the co mechanics is like, you know, determining what is a threat valuable enough. Because like you can always make a move that's worth something, right? Or almost always. You can almost always make a move that gets you like 1 point or 2, but it's like, you know, you have to make a threat that's more valuable than winning the co fight itself. Because otherwise the opponent's gonna ignore it. Okay. No other questions about Seki? So like in practice, these are alive, right? These 2 things will stay alive forever despite not having 2 eyes. Okay, so that's Seki and ko. Double ko, you can have multiple ko. So like double ko and triple ko. This is an example of triple ko. Saying like, you know, the mechanics of the game depend on your rule set here. So let's imagine it's white's turn here. Like white can capture this thing, then black can capture this thing, then white can capture this thing, then black can capture this thing, then white can capture this thing, and then so on and so forth. Like this could happen in a world where we define ko as being like just you can't immediately recapture whatever the last move was. Right? So however, in a world where we define like you can't recreate the same state of the board at the, like 2 times over, then this would get stopped at some point. Someone would not be able to make a move on one of these captures. This is called triple ko, because we have like three ko's in a line. Now, just as a little historical tidbit fun fact, I think in like the 1500s there was a Go game between there was a Go game happening, and it ended in a triple ko, and the game was like ruled as having no result. Like in Japanese rules, you would just play the game again. But then the next day, the castle within which the game was being played was captured by like an enemy warlord, and so ever since triple ko's have been like sort of taken as bad luck in Japanese like Go mythology. So that's triple ko.
So did that end like nobody had any other move available?
Well, no, you could have other moves, but the idea is that the capture of the triple ko is so important that none of the other moves are more valuable than it, right? So like
So they just chose not to play?
no, they got into this loop and then they recognized that they were in a loop, and then they like I think the way that it works in
Okay.
Japanese rules is like you can decide with your opponent to like end the game with no result. I think that's how it works,
Okay.
although I don't remember. But like, you know, you can imagine if one player doesn't play here, then it ends, and white wins the triple ko. So like, you could also go and make a threat somewhere, but like that's beside the point because you don't need to. You can just keep playing the cycle. So there's no need to go and deal with external threats. You could do an external threat if you wanted to, but like, you only stand to lose from it. unless that threat is genuinely bigger than the ko itself, and at which point I wouldn't call it a threat anymore. That's just making a good move. In some rules, triple ko is an instant no result. I totally believe that. Yeah, again, and to be clear, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, I don't know all the intricacies of every rule set. So I have no doubt that some of the things that I say here will have weird intricacies in all sorts of rules. Okay, that's triple ko. Let's see, what else do I have? So kos can, oops, this was supposed to be a GIF. Oh, that's sad. It's not playing. You can imagine in this position, like black is going to want to advance by capturing like one spot on the right here, and white's going to advance like by playing one on the left, and so on and so forth, and it just kind of goes in a circle. You're right. We can create a very simple example of this, since the GIF is not working. I'll do it on 3x3. So okay, let me set this up. I think it's like this. This? No. Yeah, and then it's black's turn. So black goes like this, then white goes like this, and then black goes like this, and then white goes like this. I think in all of these situations, each player is playing the only legal move available on the board. So like this is basically entirely forced. And it just goes on forever. So this is another example of like a weird co-situation.
The GIF is in
Yes.
chat.
Sweet. Yeah, that's the GIF. You can contrive situations like this is obviously a made up situation. No one would ever get into this weird result, but you can make more realistic looking ones. I don't know if it's ever happened in an actual game, but like you can make situations where there's like a single pinwheel of this like 3x3 style, and it like is embedded within a larger fight, and whoever like wins the pinwheel ko decides who wins the actual fight that's like between larger groups. And again, like depending on your rule set, one of these players is not going to be able to, like, if it's a rule set where we're not allowed to create the same position, one of these players is going to get stuck and not be able to like recreate one of these moves.
If you notice that you're getting into this position, is it like the players are aware of how it's going to end?
Players are aware
You
of,
see
yeah,
that some kind of thing is happening, and we're just going to force, and then
yeah, you would
eventually someone's
probably
going to stop.
recognize,
So
like, if you were making that GIF position, you would probably recognize that you're doing it. Like, I don't think.
So you're trying to
Yeah.
predict who is going to have to be forced to play elsewhere first.
In reality, I don't think this is likely to come up.
Like maybe with a double ko. See how this is coming.
Oh, and yeah. In the other cases,
Who's
yes,
going to have to
absolutely.
repeat, and then
Yeah, you would want to
not
think
able to
that.
repeat.
You would want to think that through. In the case of like a double ko or like, yeah, like, you if you wanted to, like in a big game, you could certainly force a triple ko for the sake of getting no result. Like that seems like a total possibility. Like if you're losing, you could make a triple ko. Although again, I don't think this is common. I don't know the statistics on how common triple kos are, but I think it's rather uncommon. And by rather, I mean like probably like 1 in 1,000 or something. I'm completely guessing off the top of my head, but like I don't think it's a common thing at all. But yeah, you would want to think through what's like what the results of all of these things are. Approach ko. Okay. I think I have a setup here that should work. Okay, so this is called the rectangular 8 in the corner. That's the name of this shape. It was the one that I mentioned with Carrie that is bizarre. Now, you can create an approach ko from this. If it's a white to move, I hope I do this right. If it's white to move, I think white goes here and then black goes here. And now white does... Shoot. Am I forgetting? I think white does this. And then this becomes approach co, if I'm not mistaken. So hold on, I'm gonna look up an approach co example. I'm not entirely sure if I got that right. So not that. By the way, a lot of most of the examples that I have in this talk are from this website called Sensei's Library, which is basically like the Go wiki. Okay, so in this example, I think it's white to move. So white is trying to capture this thing on the right. Black is trying to capture this thing on the left. So in the current situation, black only needs to make one move to capture the thing on the right. However, black has a few liberties on the right side of the board here, right? So white is going to not only have to suck up one co-threat, but instead two in order to win this fight. Let me just recreate this to demonstrate what I mean. Hold on. Yep. I think this will make more sense if I just physically create the board. Sorry, as I mentioned, I didn't finish my slides in the spirit of math talk. Okay, so I think I did that right. Okay, so
It looks correct, yes.
so it was white to move. White can capture. Or sorry, it was black.
No, it's black.
Yeah, and black to move in this.
You switched the colors.
I did switch the
Yeah.
colors. Black to move here. So black gets to capture this. Now, let's say black really wants to win this co-fight. White gets to make a threat somewhere. Now, if black really wants to win this, black has to make another move and now suck up two co-threats at the same time. So like this one was made, now white gets to make another co-threat at the same time, and then black captures. So in this world, white got to make two threats. Black wants to win this, white has to make two separate threats. And you can extend this even further, right? From this situation, if I delete this black stone, now black needs to suck up three different distinct threats in order to win this. Like from here, right? So black captures, white gets to make threat one, black approaches, threat two, black approaches, threat three, black captures. And now at this point, white has made three separate threats just for free as a result of black insisting on keeping this thing alive. So like this is very advantageous for white. In reality, black would almost certainly just forfeit this group because there's pretty much no world in which like three distinct things being killed or valuable moves being made is worth whatever the status of this thing is. So that's approach co and two-step approach co and three-step approach co. Did that make sense? Stop me, please. Questions? Just said two-step approach co. Any questions before I go on to double co Seki?
I guess the only thing I'm confused on is why that last example is called a co. Is it just because there's a co situation in the middle of it?
Yeah. So, hold on. Let me go back. Where was it? Which board did I have it on? I have too many boards open. Did I get rid of it? Shoot, I did get rid of it, didn't I? Yeah, there it is. Okay. Yes. So, like, you can still play the co. Like, so Yeah. So white can still make this move. Then black has to make a threat, and like white makes another threat, and black, or sorry, white responds to black's threat, then black captures, and then you can continue playing the game of like white makes an extra like threat, and then black does this. So you can still play sort of the basic co-mechanic underneath the overlaying game of like white making threats and black filling the outside of here. But like, yeah, at the end of the day, think of it as a threat from white reduces the like the 3-step approach co to a 2-step approach co. So white can exchange turning a 3-step co into a 2-step approach co with the exchange of making a threat. So white gets to do a thing that white wants, which is make a threat that could get realized into an actual valuable thing, in exchange for something black wants, which is reducing the order, the magnitude of this of steps of this co-fight.
Sure. Okay.
So like, again, this is really bizarre and uncommon, but like, you know, that's what's going on. And like that's the contrived situation that we've come to. But yes, like yeah, you can imagine that like they first just play the co on the inside, and then black has to like fill out the outside. Like that's totally possible as well. Okay. Double ko Seki. So double ko Seki. In this position, you can imagine it's well, first of all, let's just identify what's going on. So this black group has one eye. There's one true eye here. There's one true white eye on the top left. And then there are two co-mouths that are not connected to each other, but they both involve the two groups that have one eye. So the way this goes is that black is going to, let's say it's black's turn. Black doesn't want to fill B in, because if black fills B in, white's going to capture by playing in the eye. Now what black can do is play on A. If black plays on A, then, well, white has to protect this thing, so white's going to play on B. So both co's, or both of these co-mouths toggle. And then if white decides to play, you know, now this one's turned to a black stone on A, so then white can play here, and then black can capture back, and now we've gone in a circle. However, like it's an even amount of moves that have passed. No one needed to make any threats, so there's no point in doing this anyway. Does that make sense? You would never. You stand to gain nothing. There is a case in which you stand to gain something, but if this is all that there is on the board, you stand to gain nothing from playing at A, because white just plays here, and then it's your turn again. So basically, nothing has changed. Now, can anyone think of the situation in which it would be valuable to play as A? Yeah, co-mouth. I think co-mouth is the word that's used to describe like when you have a co that is open, I think the word co can be ambiguously confused with the situation or the life status. So you can say co-mouth to distinguish that you mean this explicit like local shape.
Okay.
So any ideas as to when you would want to play at A as black here? Because there's a real situation in which that would be very valuable. No? Elliot, come on.
All
You
right,
can figure it
I
out.
low-key zoned out. What was the question?
When would it be valuable for black to play on A?
if white has no co-threats.
If white has no co-threats. No. You mean you because white can play on B. If black plays A, white plays B. Right?
Yeah,
So
are we asking like if there's more stuff on the rest of the board that we can't see?
yeah, well, yes, yeah, that's what I mean by in what situation. What is some situation of the rest of the board that could make it valuable for black to play on A?
I'm not too sure.
So you can
Is
imagine
this
there's
just-
another yeah.
Well, you were probably about to say it, but like resolving a co-fight somewhere else on the board.
Yes, exactly. So A is a co-threat in and of itself. So, and furthermore, it's what's called an irreducible co-threat. So you can imagine there's a co-fight somewhere else happening on the board, and then black can play at A, white plays at B. Then black gets to do what black wants, and then white makes a threat somewhere. But then black can come right back here and play it somewhere, like play somewhere else here. So there's an infinite pile of reusable co-threats within this double Koseki formation. So in that situation, it is valuable to play at A. Actually, I'm gonna skip ahead because there's another situation in which that happens. So you can have situations like this. Okay. Imagine this is the entire board, right? And like literally, like this is the edge of the board. In a world like this, like white can capture if it's white's turn, but if it's black's turn, then black can play here. However, you can imagine if under some co-situation, black's not allowed to play here, this group is alive, and black has to pass. Black can't make a move, so white then captures. Now, you can imagine instead if white has this one eye flaw, and there is a double Koseki somewhere else on the board, then white can just indefinitely fend off black from capturing this group. So this group would live unconditionally if there's a double Koseki globally present on the board. Does that make sense?
Is that supported by the rules? Like obviously we can analyze that like using our brains and say that is the case, but can we justify using the rules, or is that just something that has to be agreed upon by players?
What do you mean? I'm sure I know what you mean by is it agreed upon by what rules? Yes, I think there are differences in rule sets here, as with many of the situations that we've talked about. But and I think that's one of the questions that we should be asking as we're talking about this in the first place is like, under which rules would this be legal? You could contrive rule sets that are sensible, that in which this is legal and illegal, right? So apparently there are under various rule sets, it can be dead, it can be Seki, it can be alive, it can be no results in the game. So it depends on the rule set.
Yeah, right.
So just to belabor it out and actually talk about what's going on. So if black plays here, let's just imagine, black plays here in the attempt to capture. Now white's gonna play here, threatening to capture this big thing. Since this is sort of like an irremovable eternal threat, let me just finish. So black then captures this, right? White captures here, so white captures this. Did I say that backwards? White captures here, so black captures this. Now white gets to go back here. So black is never going to be able to fill in this spot because white can always delay this co-fight. Because white has that infinite well of co-threats. So for that reason, this group lives. Or depending on the rule set, it lives. It can be imagined to live. This is called moonshine life.
But what would happen
Will
if
this
you had
not
two...
result in a?
Oh,
Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Will this duplicate a board state?
Well, yeah. So you can imagine, like black plays here, white takes, black takes, then white plays here. That would be recreating a board state. So if you have a rule set in which we are making recreation of any board position illegal, then this would be dead.
Okay.
So, but again, like not all rule sets are like that. So it's a question of what rule set we're talking about. Carrie, you have a question?
Oh yeah, I'm not sure if this is a dumb question, but what would happen if you had two moonshine lives, like that formation in the upper left, but twice, and then you still had the unlimited like
I don't know,
supply?
but let's think about it.
I'm just wondering if
So
the unlimited supply is just, like, truly infinite.
I think it's truly infinite. So I think, and maybe you could like ask them the question of like, what if you have an infinite cardinality of moonshine lives or something? But
Oh
no.
no.
No, I think they both stay alive. But so black would capture, right? We'll imagine there's this is one moonshine life, and we'll imagine there's one like down here, right? Black captures. Now white does this. Now black, like we're assuming that the double Koseki is bigger than either moonshine life, because if that's not the case, then black would just kill the double Koseki to get the moonshine life. So that's just an assumption, to be clear. So black plays here, white captures, black captures, and then white takes back. And like I guess I don't see how black would end up using the second moonshine life. So I think in any world that I can imagine where you have one that is protected by the double Koseki, a second one would also be protected by the double Koseki.
Black is just gonna play on the larger one.
Yeah, black always wants to play like all of the black is just gonna play like respond in whichever place is bigger. You could imagine, maybe there's some really large structure connected to this moonshine life that black wants to kill. Like maybe there's 100 pieces connected to it, just a big blob of white stones. And in that case, black would just throw the double Koseki and just capture this. White captures this thing. Black just takes the moonshine life, and then white just kills this thing. And like both players, in a world like that, that would probably be optimal play, because the 100 stones attached to this is more important than the 20 the 20 points that are within this shape, or 30 or whatever it is. I didn't count, to be clear.
So I guess in a lot of like professional games, like players are always like counting area, like because it seems to matter a lot whether there's like 100
Yeah.
tiles or like
Oh yeah,
30.
absolutely. Yeah, this all depends on the point value. Yeah, so like in a lot of these situations, you have to know the point values of different threats. You have to know the point values of getting different groups, stuff like that. So, it depends. What you want to do in these situations is dependent on the global phenomena of the board. Cool. Any other questions before I go back to even more crazy situations? You're at double Koseki. By the way, to be clear, this list is absolutely not exhaustive. There are way more weird situations than I have slides. This is an introduction to crazy shapes. Okay, in that case, I'll go on to 1,000-Year Co. It is also created by this rectangular 8 in the corner. So once again, black's gonna play here. Now, white plays here. Black plays here. White plays here. Black plays here. This is an actual, to be clear, this is an actual shape that does occur in real life. Now, okay, so what's the status of this at this point? You can start to think about it. White can play this to hold on, let me think. Yeah, white can play this to
If white
make
plays there, then
Yep.
S4, E4,
Doesn't-
and then black goes S3.
Yeah, so this turns into Seki here. So
Oh.
if white fills
Oh, okay.
am I right? That's Seki, yeah. Right?
Yeah, I feel
It's
like
Seki.
white has problems after capturing that group, but I'm not sure.
I feel like white has problems after capturing that group.
I think you're
You
just
mean,
not
yeah.
looking far ahead
Yes.
enough.
Right. Yeah. You can. It's worthwhile to just memorize eye shapes, but like it turns out that this shape here is you're good. You'll live.
Yeah,
These
I
two.
keep forgetting that a domino eye is fine.
Yep, a domino eye is fine. Yeah. So this shape is fine. If black were to stupidly play here, then wait.
Why is that bad for
No,
black?
sorry. This kills. I'm an idiot. And I'm completely lying to you. This is not Seki at all. Black plays here. White captures. Black plays in the center.
Yeah, I
And
thought that might be mad, but of course, I
yeah,
don't know why, which is why
no,
I'm watching and you're presenting.
yeah, no. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I'm off my rocker. So white would not play this because white dies. Um, so what else can white do? White play here. We can imagine, and these two spots are basically the same at this point. Um, so like white can play here. Black captures. Now white's options are to like play out this ko. Like white can't do this, to be clear, right? That's suicide. So white can play somewhere else, hoping to gain this ko back. Oops. Hoping to win this ko. And then white has to play another move here to kill this thing. So you can imagine, black now plays somewhere and then white has to ignore this threat. So that was a world in which white started first, and because white started first, white had to like suck up a black threat. Now, what happens if black starts first? Like let's say, how did I wait? How did I do that? Sorry, hold on. Please hold as I recover my thought process. Yeah. So white played it. White played on the inside like that. So what if it's black's move first, and black, white decides to not do anything here. Black goes here. Now white continues ignoring, so white gets to make a second move on the outside. Now black goes here, and then white gets to play on the inside, or play the ko threat, and now it's a true ko as it was in this situation before. So did you catch what happened on the left side here? If white goes first, then black gets two moves on the outside, right? If white goes here, then black gets to black gets to wait. Hold on. Right? Did I get that wrong? You see, this is confusing.
When white went first, they had to suck up threat.
And black gets to make a threat on the outside. Yeah, so black makes
Yeah.
one. Yeah, so black makes one move on the outside, and then white has to suck it up, and black goes again. Two moves on the outside if white goes first and insists on making it live. If black goes first,
Then if black goes first, and that one could be
then
ignored because you just used that to
right, white
change
gets to
the
go
turns.
again, and then
Yeah.
but this was, to be clear, this move was like normal proceedings, right? This one up here was like white just ignoring. That wasn't really an extra threat that was gained. So black now goes here, and then white goes here. So like white gets a move on the outside if black starts, and black gets a move on the outside unless white starts. So whoever starts is disadvantaged in the ko. So you kind of don't want to be the one to start it. In practice, what will often happen here
Interestingly,
is
it seemed like black started coming out of it both ways. Like black had the
started
initiative
coming
once it was resolved. Once it got into co.
Oh, you mean like okay, yeah. So yeah, so black gets to make the extra move after. We will talk about that in a moment, to be clear.
Okay.
But let me just validate your claim before we go on. So that was, did I just do white goes first? That I just did. I think you're right. I think in both situations, yeah. If white wants to end this, white has to kill this thing, and therefore in both situations, like yes, black is going to be the one to make the move after. So yeah, I think you're correct. But we'll talk more in depth about how that works later on. The initiative, that is. So that's 1,000-year co. In practice, the way this happens is often, if you get into that situation, you wait until basically everything else has happened and there's no co threats left, and then you finish it. That's one option of how it might go down. In some board cases, you might be really like it might be that valuable that you want it to just like you want to make sure you win at all costs, even if it means handing your opponent 2 moves. But you know, that's often case like sort of the position sort of you don't want to be the first to move. Whoever moves first is disadvantaged, so it's often the case that and I think the answer is probably usually the case that you wait until the board fills up until you handle this.
Wait, is that why it's called the 1,000-year door? Like, because it stays
1,000-year
open
1,000-year co.
until
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Oh, I guess the idea is the game feels like I don't know. It's a long time.
Yeah. Well, wait until you learn about molasses co. So, that's this one. Yeah, that's this one down here. Okay. So we'll say it's I didn't copy this right. Hold on. Did I copy that right? I think I copied it wrong. I think this is, yeah, this has to be, this black group has to be in danger. Like this. Okay, now it's molasses co. So, all right, what happens if either player makes a move here? We can imagine it's like white to move. So we'll say it's white's move here. White goes here, which is, to be clear, the only sensible move that white can make locally. If white goes here, then black just captures, right? And vice versa with this one. So the only local sensible move for white to make is to do this. So white plays here. Now black can't fill, black can't replay the co. So black's going to go here, but then white kills. Right? So if white goes first, white kills black. What happens if black goes first?
Black kills.
Black kills. We have a vote for black kills. Any other ideas? Any other guesses?
I think. Oh, actually no.
White could respond differently.
Let's just play it out. Black goes here. White can't capture, right? Because if white captures, black just takes. So white's going to do this. Now black can't fill. Black can't recapture the co. Black is forced to go here. Now white does this. So there's this sort of doubly nested co here. And to be clear, you can have these doubly nested co's in a lot of different situations. Like this is another common pattern. I didn't make a slide explicitly for it, but like you can think of it as like a slightly lesser form of the pinwheel ko. So we have these two like nested ko's here, and then this weird like situation of two like this block of two. So what we just did in exchange for black moving, we like just transitioned. We sort of flipped states of the position. So like white ended up on the right half of this bottom side ko, and black ended up with this like little line of two. So like in the game, white played here, then black did this thing, and black's gonna make a move somewhere else because black just wants to make a normal move. Because by the same logic as before, if black makes a well, yeah, black can't do this, but black also can't immediately retake this ko either. So black's gonna make a move. Then white's gonna do this. Then black's gonna capture. Then white's gonna capture this, and then black's gonna capture that, and we've just transitioned back. Now, if at either point, like you can imagine, white does this again, then black would want to do this, but to play that sequence out. But if black just responds normally, now white gets to
White
start
wins.
this situation.
So it's like slowed down the pace of the game by a quarter or something.
Precisely a fifth, yeah. For every
Okay.
move that for every move that either player makes, assuming you don't want to be the loser here, you have to play the sequence of 4 moves after every individual move. Hence, the game turns to molasses, and why it's called Molasses Co.
In practice, would like players actually make all
I
of
have
those
no
moves?
idea if this has ever come to be in practice
Okay.
or what. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you were playing the actual game, you wouldn't want to lose this fight for no reason. So yeah, you would actually play
Or
the
you could just be like, let's do those 4 and then I'll make my move, or let's do those 4.
Yeah, yeah. You could probably. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this would actually be handled in the real world. It probably depends on what country you're in and how much of a hard ass your opponent is, and I don't know. But like, um, I make no comments on such things.
Oh wait, so
Let's see.
I guess,
Yeah.
oh, I sort of zoned out for a little bit. So is the idea that between any two like moves elsewhere, you don't want to lose that bottom territory, so you have to kind of almost like ritualistically do these 4 moves?
Between any one move, after any one move, you have to ritualistically do this sequence of 4.
Oh,
Or
okay, so that's why it goes to 1/5 speed.
yeah.
So
What did I do?
I feel like, yeah, like players could just kind of do a handshake where they're like, let's just agree that those 4 moves happened.
You
If we're just
certainly
gonna
could.
undo them.
Yeah.
I mean, if your opponent is nice, you could probably do that.
Yeah.
Nice or
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe in tournament it's like, well, we have to like still make the board look the way that it should.
Right.
How would
Yeah, I think
my
like
question?
if it's a like a real tournament match, you'd probably have like actual like I don't know what the name of them are, but like judges that are sitting there and actually recording the game on paper. Um, doing so is very tricky with like even when there's just a normal co-fight, let alone when you have something like this, because like you would annotate which moves like were replayed in the same spot, because usually like the way that the thing that they use to notate the board the game is, it like looks like a board and they write the numbers where the stones go, so like stone 1 goes here, stone 2 goes here, and so on. But like even with a co-fight, like then you have to start annotating it separately, because you have to track like oh well, move 105 was on the same spot as move 20 because you fill in a spot that was already played. In a Molasses Co situation, I can't imagine the pain that would be to annotate all of that.
How would the game even end if the Melasco was on the board? Because
I think yeah, so if we imagine that that there's nothing else to be done, I think in situational Superco, if black passes, then white would get the next move again, and they would win the co. And for black to pass, that would have to mean that black would already be filling in their own liberties to hold on. Let me draw a position to make what I'm saying clear. So like we can imagine a situation like no, go back. We can imagine a situation like this where white has like 3 eyes. Now, at the end of the game, in order to I'm thinking off the fly here to be clear, so I'm not 100% sure if what I'm saying is true. But I think, in order to not lose the molasses co in a situational super co rule set, which is where we're including the whose turn is it in the computation of who's making the move, then like white would be inclined to fill in their own liberties. No, I think I said that wrong. I think there's a world in which you want to fill in your own liberties in order to be able to keep playing the molasses co. I think it says.
And it presumably would get even worse if we had the double co Seki on the board as well, because then it's like you can. There's no way to end the game, so it would be a triple co in disguise, basically.
Would be at the game's end. Okay, is this basic co? At the game's end, the co is asymmetric. One player's big string. Yeah. A player, yeah. So I think this is what I was thinking of, but yeah, that's positional super co. I said situational super co, but I think that's not the case. So you can't pass without losing it because you repeat the board position by like when you pass you then huh? Wait, I'm lost. So if like you're doing this and then white passes, then black. Yeah,
And it
at some point you're
continues.
gonna be at some point here you're just gonna have to recreate the same state of the board. And I think I
Yeah,
read somewhere, and I may be wrong, that like it can be advantageous to fill in your own liberties to prevent like beforehand to make to avoid the situation where you would be recreating the same state of the board twice. At that point, it becomes this weird sacrificial game of like, who can fill in their own liberties and like in a way that is most optimal to then win the molasses co at the end. I think that's the case. I could be wrong on this.
right.
The
Because the
answer is
whole reason it's
weird shit happens. Yeah.
the whole point of co in the first place is that you have to make a move somewhere else on the board, which is why
Yeah,
passing doesn't
exactly.
work.
Right. Well, but to be clear, like you can always pass. I never actually said this explicitly, but the way that the game ends is when both players pass. You're always allowed to make a pass. And when both players consecutively pass, the game ends and you begin to score. So like, yeah, like passes.
That's why it's
Passes
important that
illegal
we
due
have
to the co rule.
positional super co, because otherwise, if your opponent passes, then by passing, you would repeat a board state. The game could never end.
No, pass is always legal, regardless of what kind of co rule you have. Like 100% of the time, a pass is legal, even if you have no, like, even if it would be recreating some board state under any circumstance, you can always pass.
Wait, so if player A were to pass but is in a weaker position, could player B pass just because they knew they would win the game at that point, even if like the game felt not complete yet?
Well, you would. I mean, in practice, like you wouldn't do that. Like you would just play it out to completion before you begin scoring, because if things are left undefined before scoring begins to occur, then like you wouldn't know how many points to assign to either player. However, yes, this is very common on like there's a go subreddit where it's like beginners just asking like who won this game, and it's like not even complete in the first place. But like there's a subreddit for like actually for doing that. So like yeah, as a beginner you won't know when the game is complete. You have to sort of knowing when the game is complete depends on your understanding of the life and death status of the groups that are in the game. So
Oh, okay.
does that
So yeah,
answer your question?
well, I guess it's not like there's certain games where like you can just tally up like who has the most territory, but it's not as well defined here. So it's not like you could just be like, well, I'm one tile ahead, so I will pass to like it's not that clearly defined, I guess.
Right. But if you don't know, like you can just continue playing and just try to actually mechanically kill the group. So like, you know, if you think you might be able to kill something, go for it. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I guess for most games it's like it would be kind of like a dick move to just try to pass it. It's like just play it until it feels like it's done.
Yeah, you play it until you play it until it feels like it's until you have nothing meaningful left to do. I mean, if you pass, your opponent can just keep making moves, and then they can just start to kill things. So,
right. Like passing is like a pretty like I'm guessing it's a pretty rare type of move because like.
Well, no, that's how the game ends. You do it as soon as there's nothing left to be done. So like in practice, the way that a game looks here, I'll just go into my history and like find a game. So like at the end here, we would have both recognized. So I made the last move, and then we both recognized that there was nothing left to be done. So they pass, then I pass, and then the game is scored.
Oh, okay.
So like you pass when there's no more territory left to be produced, and there's no more groups left to be killed.
Okay, yeah. Wait, what is that graph in the upper right? Like it looks like a stop.
This is AI predicted score.
Oh, I
So
see.
apparently I made some big mistake here. I don't know where.
I was gonna say there's like a big jump, so like
yeah,
it's like you make a move and then
I went from very winning to only kind of winning.
Oh, I see.
Apparently, according to the bot.
Well, is Go
Anyway.
a game where like I guess AI is already like
AI is
like
already
wins
way better than humans. Yeah.
like it beats humans like 100% of the time. So
Yes.
yeah.
Although it's worth noting it took significantly longer than chess to get to that
Yeah,
point.
Go is very difficult to solve computationally. Like, a lot of the things that we've been discussing here, like you can think of the thing as like eyes. It's hard to write Go heuristics because like you can't know how many eyes your groups have without knowing the life or death status of it. Like there's no way to easily computationally determine if something is an eye. And as we've also mentioned a couple of times here, like you know you can still like make Seki even if you don't have two eyes and things like that. So there's a lot more room for heuristics being bad. There's a lot of it's hard to write good heuristics for Go. And also just in terms of raw like branching factor, you know, you have a branching factor at the start of the game of like 362.
So if you were to compare it to chess, like I think chess has like 16 starting moves. So even though the branching factor is already like huge, it's like nothing compared to Go.
Right. Here's just another fun fact to illustrate that. I forget exactly what rule set, but I think it might be under the most permissive rule set. Anyone want to take a guess of how many 2x2 Go games there are?
You've asked me this question before, and I said something like 6. and the answer was like 70.
No, it's not 70.
But it was much higher than I expected it to be.
Yeah, I think it's
28,000.
It's like it's in the
That's my
billions.
guess.
Wait,
It's more than a billion.
more than
What?
are there like
Because-
situations where
Yeah.
oh no, but like you can't go back to a game state you had before. So even if there's a situation where it's like they go back and forth capturing, you have to
Right.
stop if it ever ends in a loop.
Yes, yeah. I think that calculation was for positional superco. I could be wrong about that. But here, let me just go ahead and make a board on 4x4, and we'll just get some intuition for why that is the case, right? Okay, so like you can imagine, black goes there, white goes there, black goes there, white goes there, then black goes here, then white captures, then black captures, and now white goes here and black goes here. And this is one game, right? We're playing one game here. And the question is, how many 2x2 games are there? And we can keep doing this for a long, long time. And then eventually at some point, black can make life. But of course black would want to make life as soon as possible, but we're asking just how many games are there, not if black is being smart. And eventually, at some point, you're gonna hit a position that you've wandered into before.
I'm seeing this Reddit.
Does it have any?
Yeah.
Oh, this Reddit thread says there's 57 possible states. So, and I know the number of games is how many ways can you how many paths through that space.
Right.
Are
exactly.
there. So yeah, I could see how there's billions.
Yeah, there's billions.
If you account for symmetry, how does that change? It seems like there's a lot of places where there's a 2x2, two white next to each other, and black has two options, but they're meaningfully the same.
Right. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And you can in practice solve 2x2 in your head. I think. I think at this point it becomes. Seki, and whoever plays is disadvantaged. Okay, maybe I take that back. That you can solve it in your head. I think you just pass. I think you just no, I don't know. Never mind. I take it back. I don't even know what to do. The thing is, making life is impossible in 2x2. So with the exception of if your opponent just kind of lets you. So it becomes weird, and you have to actually count. You have to count. Really, you have to be good at counting these stones that you've captured so far. I guess it's just. I think there's no point in going past this. I think it just becomes effective Seki here. Yeah. Anyway, I think I only had 2 slides left because we already talked about this one in Moonshine Life. To be clear, there's more. There's a lot more of those weird positions, but this is just to give you a taste of how crazy it can be. Sente and Gote and point value. So I think Grey Cuber already brought up Sente and Gote. Each of these positions, in addition to having a life and death status, it also has an associated point value to it. Oh, I didn't talk about this one. Well, I'll talk about that in a sec. There's an amount of points that is associated with each of these things that's happening, and you have to keep track of is it more valuable for me to put this into the threat of Ko but potentially get more points out of it versus just make it live unconditionally, and with a fewer amount of points. An actual very practical example of that is this thing in the bottom left. I showed how this can turn into Approach Ko and how it can also turn into 1,000-Year Ko. It actually can also turn into Seki, which is usually what white wants here, because white has a lot more to lose. So in practice, you'll make Seki like this. However, white stands to gain more points by winning the 1,000-Year Ko. So if white is confident in their ability to win the 1,000-Year Ko, then white would do that. But do you want a guarantee of life, or do you want more points? depends on the rest of the board, right? Depends on how many co-threats you have, depends on how many points you have elsewhere. And so that's how that can hopefully give you a bit of an intuition of how this extends into combinatorial game theory, right? We're asking the question of how does this board state behave in combination with other board states that have different co-statuses and different point values and such. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how this is the sort of fertile ground from which combinatorial game theory sort of sprung. Did I have anything else? Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about with the tree of possibilities slide. And also, yeah, I didn't really mention it there, but it has this shape within it has the co-value, it has the points, and it also has who gets to make the next move after it gets resolved. So you want to juggle all those things. And this is one example of a group that has a lot of different ways of resolving itself, including Seki, Thousand Year Co, Approach Co, and each of those resolutions has different effects on the remainder of the board. Okay, so one last one to for funsies. I think this is called Round Robin Co, although I forget. So the idea is black starts here. What's white gonna do? White could capture this, but then black would go here, and then white is gonna die. Now, instead of doing that, white would go here. Now, black could do this, but white would just capture black. So black would instead capture this thing. Black could also do this, and it collapses to Seki. But however, you can create a cycle here by having black do this and then white do this, and then someone plays elsewhere, and then so on and so forth. So this is another example of just sort of a way that you can make a cycle that is not a trivial co-cycle. It's called a round robin co. I forgot to put that one in the slides. Anyway, that's all I had.
But you wouldn't be able to finish the round robin unless something else changed. Like if you were playing the last move of that cycle, then like the referee would be like, "We're about to enter a state we were in before. That's not allowed."
Right. Yeah. So you could yeah. Again, it all depends on which kind of rules you have. I think under Chinese rules, you could go on doing this indefinitely. I think. But like, yeah, under a positional or situational superco rule set, you can't do that forever. Someone's gonna get stuck. Oh. Any questions? If people are interested and not bored by now, I could give you like a puzzle or two, just for fun. I didn't have any prepared, but we could do it.
I think I'm gonna have to get back to work, but thank you
Okay.
for this excellent talk.
Thank you for coming. Anyone want to try?
I've also got to head out.
Yeah.
I'll try my best.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I'll go. We'll go easy to start, and maybe it'll be easy at this point because I've already explained a lot of the ideas. Let's see if I can just think of one off the top of my head. An easy puzzle. Okay. What is the status of the group in the bottom right? Maybe not too easy. I shouldn't say it's easy. It's not easy, but it's not super hard. What about how about top right, bottom right? What's the status of each group?
This is a single position.
I'm just making two puzzles. There's two puzzles here. You can choose. Maybe someone can do the bottom right, someone can do the top right. In the meantime, let me go on my phone and find some more fun problems.
Oh, well, the top right one, isn't that one that we talked about earlier, or like
Is it? Did we talk about this earlier? We probably did.
I think it's just like, wait, white wants to go at A or T18 to make 2 liberties, but if I guess like both players want to go in the middle.
Yep. Yeah. So this is either live or dead, depending on whose turn it is. So the options are alive or dead, under whose move it is. What about the bottom right?
Well, I guess there's like 5 open spots, so I feel like it's like harder for my brain because I haven't played Go, so it's like it feels like there's a lot of branching paths.
Yes.
I think I
Yeah.
have
It
it,
is
but I'll let
fifteen.
you go first.
Oh, I don't know.
Give it a try.
Well, I have some of it.
Let's hear it.
Black to move S1.
Okay, black to move S1. Cool. Now, white could go like here, but black would capture. White could go here, black would capture. White could go here, and black can make one of those domino eyes, like that. So that is correct. That will make black live. What would white do? Is there anything valuable to do, or is it already alive, or what?
I'm currently thinking about that right now.
Yeah. I'll construct another puzzle while you're thinking about that. Yes.
Is white unable to kill in the bottom right?
Is white unable to kill? Anyone want to take a stab before I spoil the answer?
Spoil.
I mean, that's my guess.
White is able to kill. What's the move? Anyone take a guess? Doesn't have to be a good guess. Bad guesses are cool too. I'll say T2. What is black going to do? White plays T2. Anybody? Any takers? Black would just play S1, right? It's the same situation as before, effectively. Only white has this extra stone here, but like white could do this and then black just captures, or white could do this and black just captures. Okay, so T2 doesn't work.
Oh.
What about R1? Well, that's the same as not having gone anywhere at all, and it just having been black's turn. So that's not right either. So it's not T2, it's not R1. What are the other options? Any guesses?
Well, I feel like S1 feels the least enclosed, like there's no black around it yet.
Okay, yeah. Let's say black goes S2. Yes.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm not, like I'm kind of
T1?
slowly like building an intuition.
Yep, yeah, slowly building an intuition is the way to go. E1. Okay, what's black gonna do? If black goes here, white captures,
Oh,
right?
wait, no, wait, is this a situation where like, wait, is this Seki? Like whoever goes
That's a
first
great
is going to
question.
lose their pieces.
That's a great question. So if black goes here, white captures, right? If black goes here, then white also captures. What if white goes first, though? If white goes here and black captures, then we're left with this same spot as in the top right.
Oh, okay. So it's not
White
like,
goes in.
so
White
black
goes
hasn't
in. Yeah.
like
So
black hasn't fully won in that situation.
black dies if white plays here under optimal play. You can also imagine if so to be clear, yes, this is the right move. S1. You can also imagine, what if black
Okay.
does something else? White's just gonna capture, and like black still dies. Yeah. So you want to reduce the shape or the space inside of your black the opponent's group to look like something that you know to be dead. In doing that, you can have a good result. You can also do this. This works too. If white plays here, black captures, and then white plays here to make only one eye. It's the same result. So this also depends on whose move it is. Okay. How about the status of this group in the top left? White has one eye. If it's white's turn, what happens?
Well, I guess if white plays in the corner, then black can just take it, or so
Yeah,
I'm
you
guessing
guys
you
can't
shouldn't
see
do
this.
that.
Yes, if white plays in the corner, black takes. But here's a good question. What is the status of this group right now?
I don't know.
Okay, so if white can't play in the corner, that's suicide. If white plays here, black captures. If white plays here, black also captures. Right, so white's never going to fill in this eye. We don't have to think about that. So
Yeah.
this is what? So if white plays, white doesn't want to play, right?
Well,
What if black plays?
I feel like it's
If black plays, white captures, and vice versa.
yeah. I was thinking it's sort of like symmetrical because both black and white have one liberty that's like fully its own, and then one shared liberty.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I mean,
That's exactly right. And
I
if
feel
you
like
recall, that was the same position as this. White has white's own shared liberty. Black has white has its own liberty. Black has its own liberty, and there's one shared. So it is the same status. And if you recall, this was Seki. So this is Seki.
oh wow, okay. I feel like a lot of this feels kind of similar to like topography, where the actual like the shape of the regions doesn't matter as much as like the
Topology,
count of how many regions there are. Yeah,
not
topology. I
topology.
just say topography. I
Yes,
meant
yeah,
topology.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. It is a lot about that. You care a lot
Like
about how
yeah.
many eyes you have, more so than the shape, although the shape does call into question things occasionally. Yeah,
Yeah.
so okay. So we just learned that by black playing here, black can at least get Seki, right? So
Right.
what if can black do better is one question. And there's really only two moves to read, right? Black can go here or here, right? Those are the other two options. So if black goes here, well, white can just capture it because this is now suicide, this is now suicide, and white has two eyes. Right? And the same is true for this. Like white can just go here if white really insists, and now like White still just has 2 eyes. Black can't make any moves locally. So that's alive. So the best black can do is Seki. Now, if it's white's turn, what happens?
I don't know. I think my instinct is to like go in one of the 2 adjacent tiles to the black one.
Well, we saw what happened
but
with A19, which is we get the same thing as before,
oh yeah,
with the
yeah.
exception of we actually also gave black a free move or a free capture, which is a point. So the alternative is this. Now, if black goes here, we can just capture. Black goes here, we can also just capture. So this works. 18 makes us live. B19 also makes us live. If black goes in either of these 2 spots, we just capture by playing in the other. Oops. So
so this
either
a situation where
yeah,
if it's white's turn, then white has the territory, but if it's black's turn, it's Seki. So
exactly.
like it's kind of
That's
a
exactly
little
right.
bit asymmetrical.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Okay, last puzzle. What about this one? We'll say white's turn, just to give it some specificity. We'll say white to move.
Well, if white goes at C1, then later could white go at A1 and just take the black pieces?
That's white could later do that. But what's black going to do right now?
Oh, we can just take black at C1 by going at D1.
Yep.
So I guess white should not
And
do
now
that.
white is dead because white can't play here, white can't play here, white can't play here. So, and if white goes somewhere else, black just captures it.
Okay.
Yes, so white should not do that. It would be better to just ignore the thing and just take a free move somewhere else.
Right.
Can white do better?
Oh, well, I guess if white goes at D1, it kind of looks like that same Seki situation with like
Yes.
1 shared liberty and 1 of each.
This is also Seki. So yeah, if black goes here, white takes. If white goes here, then black takes. And you can
There's only one other
validate for
option.
yourself that E1 is no better. It's like just capture. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so E1 is
That's
also
as good as you can do.
Seki.
No, E1 is death. If you play E1, you get
E1 is
captured right away.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. So I guess D1 is the only reasonable
Yep,
option.
D1's the correct move.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I guess if it's like neutral right now, and it's also neutral if you just ignore that situation, could you just choose to ignore it and play elsewhere until you're forced to come back?
Well, it's not neutral if you ignore it. If you ignore it, let's say you ignore it, what's black gonna do? Black to move.
Well, could black also go in D1 and then?
Yes. Now white can't do anything, so white can go somewhere else. Black captures.
And then, okay. So for black, okay. So white doesn't want black to have the turn there. So playing
Right.
D1 is like the only thing we can do to save that situation.
Yes, playing D1 is the only thing that keeps this in Seki as opposed to black killing white.
Okay, I see.
So locally, D1 is the correct move.
Right. I guess there could be situations where like much bigger regions are like more urgently calling
Absolutely.
their attention. But
Yes.
ignoring that, I guess D1 is the right move.
D1's the locally correct move. Yep. Cool.
Right. Yeah. It feels like, yeah, like there's something special about like these positions where it like alternates. Like there's an eye and then a stone and an eye and a stone.
Eye and a stone and a 9. Oh.
Oh, I just mean like when you place it there, it's kind of like alternating, and I don't
Yes.
know if that's like something that shows up a lot, but
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I could
it
give
kind of
you.
like just gives everyone room to breathe.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know if I could justify why that happens, but yeah, that's a common theme, I suppose. If you have like a lot of bundled up stones like this, it usually means you're being inefficient with your moves, right? Because like if you're making big bulbs of stones like that, then that it's like it has a very low surface area, so it's easier to surround. So generally you don't have like big bulbs, you have like little tiny tendrils kind of like this.
Right, yeah. Well, one thing I was gonna ask is when actual games play out, like these sort
Yeah.
of puzzles that we're setting up feel like they're kind of like end game situations.
No, not at all.
Like
It can happen anytime.
oh, like they can pop up like early because
They pop up all the time. Yeah, they pop up in the opening, in the middle game, in the end game.
right because I remember like there was that move in that AlphaGo versus or like the 2016 game that like oh like AlphaGo beats a human player,
Mhm.
um, where they're talking about like this one move in the middle, like humans can't understand why AlphaGo did that, but it won AlphaGo the game or something like that.
Mhm.
Uh, and I just remember like as a non-Go player when I saw that board, it kind of felt like oh early on these pieces are kind of like placed. I mean, again, as a non-player, it looked like sporadic. Like, oh, they're just kind of like equal concentration everywhere. But I'm sure, like in actual games, like maybe like one half will fill up first before the other half. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just like
a lot of
kind of
things can happen.
curious.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
um
like would you ever have a board like a game that
mhm.
looks like the current board now, or is that kind of
No,
contrived?
this is totally contrived. This would never happen.
Okay, yeah, like
There's clearly not a normal opening going on here. This is just like puzzles. Like you'll often see on
yeah.
puzzle sheets that it'll be done this way, where there's like one in each corner.
Right. Well, I guess a better way to phrase my question is like, I think a lot of what we've been talking about is how to kind of resolve conflicts that have already built up. But like
Yep. Yeah,
when you're like first placing your moves, I feel like it's a totally different
it is.
like
It is a totally different game.
intuition. Like,
Yeah. So
right.
usually
Yeah.
what
Like, yeah.
happens. Oops. Black goes first. Hold on. Give me 1 sec though. I will be back in like 3 seconds. Someone's knocking on my door. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so the opening usually looks something like this. Um, the most common thing to do is to play a sort of a move like this. That the aim is to encapsulate a bit of the corner. And the reasoning behind that is like, uh, you can imagine if white wants to build territory in the corner, if white wants some like a 9 by 9 box, the amount of stones that are needed to enclose that territory is much less than is needed to enclose the same territory in the center. Does that make sense? Also, are you still here?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Well, couldn't
Okay,
you place
cool.
a tile like one away diagonally from the corners? I guess that would be like you wouldn't get much territory then,
Yeah, exactly.
even
Yeah.
though
So
you're
there's a
closer.
balance here. There's a balance here of between like, how much territory do you want versus how well can you defend it? And you can like do something like this. Actually, it's honestly debatable if you can defend that because there's not much room to make eyes. So you're also balancing that in the equation. But like, you can play moves like this, and sometimes people do, although it's rare. But this is like you can definitely live, but you're not going to get much. So
And also, it's like
it's
easier
kind
for
of
you yourself to get captured.
with this move, it's not hard to live.
Oh, okay.
With
Maybe not.
this move, it's actually I'm less confident. Like black goes. Oops, hold on. Black goes here. Like this doesn't seem trivially easy for white to make it alive. Like this is dead at this point. No, it's not. Wait, black probably did something wrong. Maybe black goes here. I don't know. But anyway, The idea is, yeah, you're balancing between like how much area of the corner you section off versus how much influence you have versus how easy you can live. And it turns out like, more or less moving in this general area is the right way to go. Sort of kind of like in this like in this box is sort of the accepted section.
Right. Yeah, and
And
I'm sure
by
like
far the most common are these two. The rest are kind of like odd but plausible moves.
right, and like the board's also symmetrical, so it's like same thing on all four corners.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like a typical opening would look like, usually there's what's called joseki, which are like common sequences that are played out between the two players to sort of stabilize one of these corners. And sometimes you also just have like people just like making bases, kind of like making like a kind of sectioning off a bit of wall territory in a way that doesn't immediately blow up into a fight, although sometimes it does. You can definitely make things blow up into fights right away if you want to. But often that's not what happens. You can also like invade the corner like this. Like this is a thing. Like this is a very common sequence.
I wonder if like when the AI players started to get really good, if like a lot of human assumed best strategies got like
Oh yeah,
replaced by
totally. Yeah, there
oh
are books full of AI moves. There are things that we thought were true for thousands of years that turned out not to be. It's been a complete like
right,
paradigm shift of everything.
like an overhaul.
This
And I'm sure there's some
yeah,
players
this
who are like upset by that.
oh yeah. There's a lot of the guy Lee Sedol, who was the guy who played against AlphaGo in the matches that you're talking about. He quit. He quit Go. He was like,